Ben Shapiro versus Tucker Carlson. Who's right in that argument? We'll weigh in. Plus, is Joe Biden lying about taking his sons to Holocaust internment camps? We'll answer that question. And is that John Fetterman or is it Bigfoot? See, all of these burning questions will be answered right now. Well, what do you say when two of your brothers, your colleagues, your friends are having a public spat with each other? That's sort of where I'm sitting right now with Ben Shapiro versus Tucker Carlson. We'll go ahead and play the segment from Ben Shapiro's show and then weigh in on who's right and who's wrong. Or maybe it's neither or both.
And Tucker, by the way, then continued along these lines. He did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he likened what just happened in Israel, the kidnapping of women and their rape. I mean, he's showing video of this happening, like as he's talking about this. He compared that to drug overdose deaths in the United States. Now, I believe we should fully care about the 100,000 drug overdose deaths that happen in the United States. These are two completely different issues. To go this far afield to link the issues, the only reason you're doing this is because you wish to downplay the atrocity that just happened in Israel. You're not upplaying the atrocity of what's happening on America's streets. Those are two different types of atrocities. People who are addicted to fentanyl, sticking needles in their arms and overdosing is a moral blight. It is a moral atrocity and a moral evil for people to kidnap women, rape them, and drag them back to the Gaza border. Those are not the same thing. And Tucker knows that. But this is a cheap way of telling you not to look. Don't look. Stop caring. Because after all, what does it matter? What does it matter? Now, again, I don't know who thinks that that's a sophisticated point of view, especially when nobody is calling for America to go to war with Iran. The entire purpose of having an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean is to avoid that. But here is Tucker playing. I don't even know the game he's playing. This is just a...
All right. So that's Ben setting this up. And we're going to play the video in a minute so you can see what he's talking about. But is it fair for Ben Shapiro now to set up this narrative that what Tucker Carlson is doing is saying, yes, things are horrible in Israel from this terror attack, but what about our border? Is that what he was doing in this clip that you're about to see? Or was he instead just saying, listen, we can do both. We can actually say unequivocally that this terror attack against Israel was horrible, yet at the same time, why aren't we saying nearly enough about the invasion on our southern border and how it's affecting American citizens? What's he doing here exactly, I guess, is the question. And did Ben properly frame it and set it up for you? Let's watch, and we will be the judge.
It's a dumb game.
But you don't have to look far in the United States for moral outrages also on video. And there's not a city in this country, not just the big cities, but cities of 10,000 people. I was in one yesterday that doesn't have some constellation of drug-addicted young people living outside. We call them the homeless. They're drug addicts. And they're addicted to drugs that were imported across an
What's that have to do with the price of tea in China? I don't understand.
More than 100,000 a year. Now, you could call it genocide. You can call it whatever you want, but it's the death of over 100,000 Americans a year and the living death of millions.
Well, you can't call it genocide. It's not genocide.
So sure. I don't understand.
I'm sorry, people who are addicted to drugs and living outside
in Israel. And again, I want to add my voice to that because I'm a human being. But
oh, sure you do. You sound very outraged.
The outrage among...
Well, to be fair, Ben, he is outraged. He's also trying to make a larger point. And again, I don't think Ben is wrong here. In fact, I lean toward Ben on this. And yes, I mean, the biggest problem here is that those people who are drug addicted because of our porous borders and because fentanyl is killing American citizens, those people are actually taking up the needle voluntarily and sticking it in their arms. That doesn't reduce the tragedy of the human cost and human waste, but it does contextualize it. The difference between a completely 100% innocent person going to a music festival and then being slaughtered or raped or kidnapped or all of the above by enraged Nazi-like terrorists is very different than a victim nonetheless, but still a victim of their own decisions here at home. And I understand Ben's anger, if not outrage, at Tucker Carlson sort of equivocating these two cases. I don't think that you can reduce whether Tucker is in fact lying about his concern over those people in Israel or not. It's not a question of whether he's genuinely upset about it. He's trying to make a broader political point. The question is whether now is the time to be making that point. And I'm with Ben that now is not the time.
Republican presidential candidates was so much more intent. One of them took to a bullhorn and started yelling about it. I get it, but no one would think to do that. about the 100,000 American young people murdered every year. And they
because who are you yelling at? Who are you yelling at? First of all, people are on bullhorns yelling about drug overdoses and the open border all the time. All the time. What is he even talking about? What he's attempting to is minimize what happened in Israel. He's not attempting to maximize what happened in the United States. He's attempting to minimize, as though America can't walk and chew gum, morally speaking, at the same time, which is absurd. And those two things are nothing alike. I'm sorry, that is not alike. It is not alike for drug smugglers to smuggle drugs over the border, which someone then takes and shoves into their arm and then they die of an overdose. That is not the same thing. I promise you, it is not the same thing as a terrorist breaking into your home and murdering your children in their beds in front of you and dragging your wife off to be raped in Gaza. That is not the same thing. Pretending that it is immoral. It's a moral blight. It's idiocy. It's just moral stupidity at the highest level. Of course we should care about what happens with fentanyl. Of course we should care about, we should close our border. Have I been unclear about this? Of course America should have closed borders when it comes to this sort of stuff. I'm on the same side as Tucker on that. I just don't understand why he's not on my side when it comes to Hamas has to be wiped off the face of the earth. What exactly is the counter argument?
Well, and again, to be fair, I think Tucker is on Ben's side on that. The difference is he's trying to make a point talking to a politician as to why does this get unequivocal outrage and this other thing gets basically ignored. And that's, it is a fair point to make. I don't think you need to make it the week in days after this attack, because it does lend to a murky moral equivalency that I doubt Tucker wants to be making here. But obviously it appears as though he has. And I think that Ben, in his righteous anger, is suggesting that Tucker doesn't have any level of moral outrage over Israel. I don't think they're both right, but I think that Ben is more right in this case. I'll let him finish his analysis.
In any case, this sort of moral sophistication is predicated on only one of a few possible hypotheses. The most dark and terrible is the possibility that people just don't give a damn when Jews get killed by terrorists. I'm not accusing Tucker of that. I'm not accusing Whitlock of that. In fact, I'm not even accusing the AOCs of the world of that, although I think she's closer to the border, considering the only tweet she has sent in this entire ridiculous situation is a tweet finding one Jew in New York saying a bad thing that the Israeli government does not even carry forth.
Yeah.
That's the only thing she's seen fit to tweet about this. I'm not accusing all these people of that. What I am accusing them of.
By the way, AOC has now put out 2 additional tweets, but both about her very grave concern about Jewish backlash here at home and in Israel. Again, nothing. She's put out nothing on X.com about the terrorist attacks. I think she put out a press statement, but not on her social media platform. So Ben makes a very good point.
Is a moral blindness that must be caused by a complete flattening of the cultural landscape, in which everybody thinks the same way that we do, and that every problem can be solved in the same way, and that it is of no consequence whether evil walks the earth, because all problems are basically, that's what realism truly is. Well, that's not realistic. That's stupid. Those are not the same thing. Again, when it comes to policy questions about what should be done in the Middle East, that is a question of prudence. It's a question of pragmatism. It's a question of American interests, which again are not always identical with Israeli interests. When it comes to comparing the Holocaust level evil we just saw in Kfar Aza with people overdosing on the streets of Philadelphia, I have some moral questions.
And I agree with Ben. I like Ben and I like Tucker both, let me just say. But Ben's right in this one. I think that if Tucker had it to do all over again, he probably would have reframed this interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, despite the fact that I get the point that he's making. And here's the real other part of this problem here, and I'm already seeing it. There are people who are maybe new to the conservative world and conservative thought. There's a lot of young people who are just sort of got inspired by Donald Trump in the political sphere. And so they're all in on conservative America First politics, and they love Tucker, and they're seeing this sort of thing saying, yeah, let's worry about our own border and not the border between Gaza and Israel. No, I'm with Ben. We can do both. And sadly, there are too many who are new to this game and new to conservative principles and don't have the same rock solid foundation that some of us maybe have spent the last decade or so building, who too quickly are taking America first to mean that Israel doesn't need our support and attention right now. And that's a very dangerous path to walk on. So I'm glad Ben called them out. And I know Tucker, and I know his heart. And I know that how it appeared here is not exactly what occurred. Here's the problem. And you see, what Tucker is speaking out against here in his own way is what we see manifest in this clip with Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham appeared on CNN, and he voiced a very robust support for Israel, but the way he supported it was, it's time for us now to go to war against Iran.
What I would do is I would bomb Iran's oil infrastructure. The money financing terrorism comes from Iran. It's time for this terrorist state to pay a price for financing and supporting all this chaos. Yes, if you're the Iranians, if we're up to me, this war escalates, I'm coming after you.
I think this is what I'm trying to clarify here, because I'm wondering if
us
what
and
you're,
Israel, us and Israel.
us, the United States and
No,
Israel.
I want to be crystal clear.
The United. Let me
A
just
joint
let me
operation
just
between-
let me just understand you,
I'm
just to
sorry.
be clear. You're saying
Yeah.
that you would want the United States and Israel to bomb Iran, even in the absence
You
of
got it.
direct evidence of their involvement in this attack.
Yeah. So if there's an escalation, Abby, if there's people's throats being cut on television as Israel goes into Gaza and they're threatening to kill the hostages, if Hezbollah is unleashed on Israel in the north, it will be because Iran is supporting that. If you don't get the connection between Iran and this terrorist activity by Hamas and Hezbollah, you're missing a lot.
So within that framework, you can understand why Tucker Carlson and those people who I just described as sort of new to the political conversation and have really just sort of come of age in the America First sort of policies that I agree with. They'll look at this. They'll look at the last 20 years of military engagement in Iraq, in Afghanistan, where we lost the plot and went astray and ended up fighting a war for people who didn't even want us to be there fighting the war for them. They'll look at Lindsey Graham saying, bomb the hell out of Iran now. And they'll say, what the hell are we doing? And they have every right to say that. And so it's not too much of a hop, skip, and a jump away from Tucker saying, wait a minute, why are we just concerned about Israel and we're ignoring our own problems here domestically at home? You see the connection, and it's appropriate, and it's correct, and it's understandable. And I'm sorry, the solution is not Lindsey Graham jumping up and saying, we got all these bombers, let's use them. Everyone take a breath here. I mean, frankly, I think that the best thing that America can do is just give Israel our support, get out of their way, and let them take care of their business. And the last thing that we need is to now engage with a country that is on the brink of having their own nuclear weapons, thanks to Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the ridiculous policies that allowed Iran to re-strengthen their military might in this region.
This is a terrorist state that has American blood on its hands. It is now time to dismantle the financing system of terrorism if this war escalates. Yes, I would do a joint military operation. I tell the Iranians today, if the war escalates, you will pay a price. You will be out of the oil business. I want to be crystal clear on that. And if we don't do that, what do you expect to happen in the future? Do you expect Israel to forgive and forget? Biden didn't mention one word about Iran today, and I want to support the president. I'm supporting the Saudi-Israel peace deal. Israel made peace with several Arab countries through the Abraham Accords. I want to help the Palestinians we can do business with as part of a Saudi-Israel peace deal, but I'm tired of letting Iran, I think they did this to stop the Saudi-Arab peace negotiations, the Iranians. I don't want to reward them. I want to punish them.
So, Senator, can I ask you now about what's happening here in the United States? Republicans on Capitol Hill, your colleagues, especially in the House, are debating whether or not to fund Israel and Ukraine. Some of them don't want to fund Ukraine at all and only want to fund Israel.
Yeah, this is a critically important exchange you're about to see here, because here's the thing. Lindsey Graham, with all due respect to the senator from South Carolina, I don't think he's ever seen a U.S. military engagement overseas that he hasn't supported 100%. Anytime there's an opportunity for the U.S. military to be engaged and American men and women wearing the uniform to be put in danger, he's all for it. It can't be all or nothing. Does anybody remember Lindsey Graham saying, yeah, maybe this isn't the best use for American military? And so, he wants to bomb Moscow, for God's sake. He wants to kill any Russian who happens to be across the border in Ukraine. And good for this CNN reporter to saying, where does it end? How much American treasure and blood needs to be spilled here? And make no mistake, if America bombs Iran, American blood will be spilled, either there or here, because that's what terrorists do.
Yeah.
But my question to you is, do you think the U.S. risks being stretched too thin with these two incredibly significant conflicts happening at the same time, requiring quite a lot of American resources?
Yeah, no, not really. My dad fought in Japan, and I had an uncle fought in Germany. America fought the Germans and the Japanese at the same time. Not one American has died in Ukraine. To my Republican colleagues who believe that we should pull the plug on supporting Ukraine, if you think Putin's going to stop at the Ukraine, you're not paying any attention. China's watching everything we do. So I think it would be really ill-conceived to not support Ukraine. They've destroyed half the Russian military. We spent less than 5% of our defense budget, and not one American has died. This has been a good investment. Putin will keep going if we don't stop him in Ukraine. As to Iran, if there's an escalation of this war against Israel, I'm blaming Iran. And it's now time to put them on notice. They will pay a heavy price. I think we can do all those things. I think if there was a war with Iran, we would win.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the only measure that we should be going on here. Number one. And number two, to the Ukraine point, to Senator Graham. Again, listen, you're the senator, man, so you have more information on this than I do. I'm just a guy with a camera and a microphone. But if your contention is that if Vladimir Putin is not going to stop with Ukraine, then, well, the next country across the border would be Poland. And if he invades Poland, that automatically triggers a NATO response, number one. And number two, last I checked, Poland is stopping their military support of Ukraine. That's the fact. So if Poland is ending their military support of Ukraine, and the only argument for American military support for Ukraine is that Russian tanks will go ahead and roll over the next border if they have their way in Ukraine, that would be Poland, and Poland doesn't seem too concerned about it. Right. Moving on now. As the news coverage continues of the events in Israel, we've got a fascinating moment with Chris Cuomo. Remember Chris Cuomo? He used to have a big show on CNN. Now he has not as big a show on News Nation. He's there because, of course, anytime anything happens, they got to send Chris Cuomo there. And it's always in a t-shirt. Have you noticed that? Although it's not as tight as it used to be. Is he not working out as much? I worry about him and his health and his pecs. He used to have some guns. Boy, talk about bearing arms, right? Chris Cuomo, all for it. Anyway, a little incident happened on his show as he was having a mouthpiece for the Hamas terrorists on his program. And
be clear,
look at what happened.
For those of you saying, oh, you were going to talk to Hamas and then you didn't because you're biased, please, all right? Know or be quiet, all right? Here is the video of
I promise you, by the way, as this program continues to grow, and we appreciate your help in allowing it to grow with your sharing and your likes and your viewership, I promise I'm never going to lecture you. I'm never going to tell you to shut up because you don't know as much as I do. What is that? Why is he always such a tough guy? Can you just deliver the news, please? And that said, I think what happened here with this guy from Hamas was actually compelling television, and Chris Cuomo did a good job. But he can't do it without walking around the barnyard like a rooster. Hey, know what you're talking about is just shut your mouth. Just stop and deliver the news.
And then you didn't because you're biased. Please, all right? Know or be quiet, all right? Here is the video of Osama Hamdan, the main spokesperson for Hamas. Dusty, show what happened.
Dusty.
He was watching the show.
I will give you 1 minute.
He was saying, I don't like the studio. I thought we were going to be on.
Thank you. No, you didn't told me that the situation will be like this. I will leave. Thank you very much.
So he decided to walk away, and I'll tell you why. You don't have to be a mind reader. He didn't want to have to follow the reality of the pain that his organization has caused. Hamas is a terror organization. That's all there is for us. The coverage is going to get picked up right now. But be clear for those of you
So that's
saying,
good.
"Oh,
And yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate Chris Cuomo actually showing exactly what happened. It's good that they had this guy running and had the tape running when he was backstage and he decided to walk off because he was going to get faced with some tough questions. He was going to be challenged, and that's great. Why Chris Cuomo needs to grandstand about it is a whole other thing, but that's his shtick. But this is actually refreshing. You know, we've already shown you earlier this week how on a couple of instances CNN did quite the opposite. CNN let a spokesperson for Hamas go on and on and on, lying and lying and lying. And I guess Chris is probably happy that he's not at the old CNN there, where he would have had to just shut his mouth instead of actually showing the truth and displaying it. So we like it when the media is able to do such a thing. Speaking of running your mouth and going on and on and on, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, he's the leader of the free world, you know. Joe Biden gave remarks just yesterday about the terror attacks. And listen, a lot of it was incoherent and there wasn't a lot of clarity from the president of the United States. But there was one moment that got a lot of attention when he slammed the podium and he started shouting. He does this sometimes inexplicably. And he talked about how he made it a point that when his boys turned 14, he took them over to see the death camps from World War II so that nobody could ever deny what happened there. And it was a powerful moment. The problem is, it appears he wasn't being completely accurate because he's told this story before. That happens a lot with this guy. He starts telling a story and he repeats it over and over and over again. You know, he used to be a senator, so he memorized certain stories for the campaign trail. The problem is when he tells this story various times, apparently it's not always the same story. Here's a little compilation of various iterations of this same story.
When each of my children and now my grandchildren turn the age of 15, the first thing I've done, my word is abiding. Every child, when they turn 14, as each of them turned 15 years of age, everyone, when they turned 14 years old, one at a time, put them on a plane and took them to Dachau. One at a time at age 15. Some thought taking a 14-year-old grandchild was not a mistake, but I took them one at a time. We fly directly to Dachau. We flew to Munich and went to Dachau. Almost all of them to Dachau and to Israel. That's why I took my kids. I put them on a plane, the first trip they've ever taken abroad. I got 3 more to go. Only one grandchild left. And that's a fact.
You know, it's times like this where we want some sort of moral clarity. We want some sort of clear direction. We want a clarion voice coming from the White House. President of the United States, he's supposed to be the leader of the free world. And he's supposed to be making an example for everyone to sort of hold up and follow. It's time for choosing, as Ronald Reagan would have said back in 1964. And when you get this is, again, another example. Is he just losing it or is he lying? It's got to be one or the other. And at this point, when you hear this story, and we're so used to the Biden brand on full display, aren't we? I don't know about you, but when I see him doing this, I don't think any of it is true. Did he really? Did he really take his sons to Dachau? Did he really take his grandchildren to Dachau? Or are you just saying whatever you have to say to BS the people who are sitting in front of you? I want it to be true. It's a great story. Or it's just a bunch of malarkey, as Joe Biden likes to say, because he's Irish, you know. Or is he Jewish or Puerto Rican or black? I mean, he's told those stories too, that he was raised in various communities of various ethnic and religious faith. I mean, we do know that he's a devout Catholic, except for, in fact, his position on abortion and other non-Catholic things that he promotes and celebrates and actually pushes as president of the United States. So it's hard to take that seriously, too. Listen, now is not a time to dunk on the president of the United States. I only wish he didn't give us so many things to dunk on. I'm sure he took his children and his grandchildren one by one at a time. And I'm sure that an intrepid reporter will ask for, pictures of the trips so we can verify that. I'm sure that'll happen. He's still taking his son, by the way, on foreign trips, but now it's to countries where his son can make millions of dollars in nefarious contracts selling access to Joe Biden. So there's that. All right. Furthermore, on the lighter side, John Fetterman, he's a senator, he appeared on Stephen Colbert's late night show. Stephen Colbert used to be funny. Now Stephen Colbert is group therapy for liberals around the country, allowing them to cry and rent their clothing over the mean Republicans and Trump and celebrate the great heroes of the Democratic Party like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and this guy, John Fetterman. So John Fetterman can't get through a Senate vote or a committee hearing without some sort of therapeutic assistance, but he can do a appearance on a late night television show. And there were a few moments that have gone viral, as the kids like to say, and here's one of them.
You all should need to know that America is not sending their best and brightest, to Washington, D.C. Yes. Like sometimes you literally just can't believe, these people are making the decisions that are, determining the government here. It's actually scary.
I'm sorry, who wants to tell him? Who wants to be the first to tell him? I know that's a little tablet sitting in front of him there that he uses to understand language, but does he understand exactly what he's saying when he says that we're not sending our best and brightest to Washington? And it's shocking that these are the people making decisions when this is a guy who has literal brain damage and can't find it in himself to actually put a jacket and tie on when he goes to work. And the crowd reaction, by the way, one more time.
You all should need to know that America is not sending their best and brightest, to Washington, D.C. Yes.
I mean, they're not laughing with him there, right? I mean, it's awkward, but Mr. Senator, in a completely related story, a couple on a train in Colorado looking out the window thought they saw Bigfoot. You be the judge.
All right, just squat it down.
In there.
Yeah, let me see your camera. I'll do it.
Yeah, we're going to watch this one more time. You can see a Bigfoot type creature. And I got to say, you see him there? There he is walking. And then he squats down. And when he squats, he looks just like one of the shrubs there, one of the bushes. It's amazing. It also looks like a guy in a furry suit, and this was probably pre-planned. Color me a skeptic. One more time. See, there he is. Walking there, and then he stoops down, and he looks like one of the bushes. His furry suit there is the exact same color as the shrubbery. So clearly it's Sasquatch. Either that or Senator John Fetterman was out for a nice hike in the Colorado outback. You be the judge. Let us know what you think it is in the comment section below. And while you're at it, subscribe, like, follow, share, all the things you need to do to keep our show going strong. Thanks for watching. We'll be back. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we'll see you tomorrow.